Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey and today we are going to go over my March TBR and the books that I've read and my perspective, perhaps, maybe, if I feel like it, April TBR. So that's going to be interesting. Now the first book I read in March was a little bit of a carryover from February. I didn't get to read in February, I was very sick, but I did read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I do have a copy of the book, but I've lent it out. Sharing is caring. And I gave this book 4.5 stars. It was good, but it just wasn't everything everybody said it was going to be. Like, I think it was just a little bit overhyped. So in this book, we follow Addie. She is from the 17th century in France. She is getting ready to get married off. She does not want to get married off. She wants nothing more than her independence, unless she makes a deal with the gods who answer after dark. Despite all the warnings, she makes the deal. She sells her soul for freedom and independence, and in giving her freedom and independence, the darkness makes her, one, immortal, and two, unable to leave a mark on the world. Everyone will forget her. She cannot write anything. She cannot say her name, and naturally, she is somewhat cursed. And as we go through the story, she meets Henry, who is working in a bookstore, and he remembers her. And you can kind of put it all together from there. It was a good story, but like I just feel like I heart toxic relationships too much because I was rooting for Addie and Luke as to where everybody should have been rooting for Addie and Henry. And that just simply, I couldn't, Henry was too boring of a character in my opinion. Like he was just a nothing burger of a character. And dumb, who barters their soul away for 1 year? Why? It bothered me. But it was overall a good book. I enjoyed it. And I did forget to mention that my prompt for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was character names for the Buzzwordathon hosted by Books and Lala. That was the prompt for Addie LaRue. I read The Lady of the Lake by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the final book in the series, although there is another book of like short stories or tales of the Witcher that follows this. I gave it 3 stars. The series started out so strong and has just gone absolutely downhill ever since the book made almost no sense. You threw in, she goes to Camelot? Like, why though? Not the way I thought the series was gonna end. Absolutely not. She literally rides off into the sunset, and I hated it. And it's really sad because I really grew to really like the characters of Geralt and Yennefer, but Ciri is just like the worst protagonist ever. I only gave it 3 stars. If you're gonna read this series, I definitely recommend stopping like 3 or 4 books in. Just don't bother finishing it. It was a waste. As a palette cleanser in between The Lady of the Lake and the next book that I read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It is a short story. My copy was only 37 pages, and it is about a woman who is put on bed rest by her husband / doctor after she has given birth to a child, which we would now know that she was probably suffering with postpartum depression, but at that time she was just a hysterical woman naturally. So they have rented a summer home. For 3 months, she is to be mostly isolated into her bedroom, which has this gaudy, god-awful yellow wallpaper, and slowly she starts to go mad from being in confinement. She's not supposed to work, she's not supposed to read, she's not supposed to write, she's not caring for her own child. She's allowed to go for little walks in the garden, and that is pretty much it. And as you can imagine, as we all experienced during the corona lockdown, staying in one place and staring at the walls is not good for your mental health. And it wasn't good for hers. Now, I gave it, this was my first 5-star read of the year. Even though it was a short story, it was so impactful and just had so much tied up in a little package. It was great. I gave that one 5 stars and highly recommend reading it. I do take part in a reading challenge game, a TBR game with Kim and her mom, Julie, at Expedition Through the Pages. And I'm on Team A, the Pirates team, and this was my March read for social media scroll. Another book I wouldn't really have read, for the prompt was poetry for our CBR game, and Julie selected as the group book Now We Are Six by A. Milne. That is the writer of the Winnie the Pooh series, and this is a book of children's poetry, and I am anti-children. So this is not something I would have ever read on my own, but it was cute for what it was. It's an hour-long audiobook. I took one for the team and listened to it. It was cute. You know, I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was fine. If you have kids, you might enjoy this. The next book that I read in March was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. 5 stars. What a book. There's so much. It's not even very long. It's 288 pages, and what an impactful story of Jeanette and her family. Her parents are very nomadic, antisocial, anti-standard, anti-conformist, anti-government, anti-anything that anybody else is. And they live a nomadic lifestyle. They moved from the deserts in Arizona to West Virginia to New York, all over the place, and just living a very poor and meager life. This was a 5-star read all the way through. I so highly recommend this book. I don't recommend the movie. I made it 45 minutes in and turned it off because they butchered her story so much. They cut off like the first 1/3 of the book in the movie. It drove me insane. I couldn't do it. But I would highly recommend this, especially if you grew up in a dysfunctional family. You will relate to this. I certainly did. And my favorite book of the month. I could not recommend this enough. 5 stars, The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. And this was my prompt for A Tale of Two Tales, the battle for an award-winning book. And it deserves all the awards. The next book that I read in March was White as Frost by Anthea Sharp. Anthea Sharp. I wanted to haterade this book so much. It was a free ebook that I got, I'm not sure, maybe a few months ago through my Barnes & Noble membership. And in reading this book, I was hoping to just sip on the haterade and just hate through this book the whole way. The writing is not great. And from the very beginning, I was like making fun and laughing at this book of how much of a disaster it was going to be. And then I liked the book. I gave it 3 stars overall. You know, there's not the writing's not great. The plot is, pretty predictable. I found this book, very similar to the Wilderwood series by Hannah Witten. And I preferred that story, but preferred one of these protagonists from White as Frost. I found Thorn way more interesting than I found Eamon from the Wilderwood series. So we'll see how that goes. Although the 2 protagonist sisters are like 13 at the beginning of the series, so it just was not something I was relating to. But overall, the atmosphere of the Darkwood and the magic and the secrets that, you're following Rose trying to uncover, you want to uncover it with her. It did lure me in, and I have since purchased the next book in the series. So I did enjoy it. I give it 3 stars. I'm hoping to enjoy the next book. From what I read in the reviews, a lot of people are saying the second book is much better than the first. I really hope that holds true. And if you are looking for like a spice-free book for yourself, or if you've got teenagers, this is definitely one I could recommend. There's absolutely no spice, no gore, no anything raunchy. It is good, approved, fine for teenagers. So if you are looking for that kind of story, this is definitely one I could recommend to you. So the last book that I read in the month of March is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. In this book, we follow the story of Celie and Nettie, 2 sisters in rural Georgia in the early 20th century. I think it's like 1930s the book starts, 1920s, 1930s. And horrible things have happened to these young women. Right from the get-go. Right from the first page, you are punched in the face and then drug along a story. And it's really about their perseverance, their finding of love and family and understanding of themselves and the people around them, redemption, forgiveness, a lot of themes going on in this book. It is told through letters. Celie, the main character, writes her letters to God. She writes her letters to God rather than praying. And then later on, letters to Seeley from Nettie and letters from Seeley to Nettie. This book will be a gut punch. It's not very long. It's 288 pages, or at least my copy is. And being told through letters, it is a very quick read. This was a 2024 book for me. And I do highly recommend it. I feel like a lot of people know this story at least, or have seen the movie, so it's very popular. But I gave this book 4 stars. The only reason it wasn't 5 stars for me is because the letters from Nettie and her story just wasn't as impactful as Seeley's was, and the change in tone from Seeley's life to Nettie's life just didn't mesh properly for me. It just felt like a completely different story at that point, and I feel like once we got into those letters from Nettie, the story of Seeley's kind of dropped off in a big way, and it was a little bit of a blunt drop off for me. So I think it was a very, very good story. I just think there's a few things I'm like whining about, but overall very good. Another book I'm reading, I started in January and I've been reading it little by little ever since, is Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by Dee Brown. This book is agonizing to listen to. It's one thing that we all know the history of the Native Americans, that they were betrayed by the government and genocide was committed against them, horrible crimes. But to listen to it in extreme detail for 14 hours, which is the length of that audiobook, is so rough. Just unbelievably rough. And I'm listening to it maybe like 15-20 minutes at a time because it is so agonizing to listen to. I'm not sure. I kind of want to DNF it, but I don't. It's just not a good time to listen to it. It's very factual, but I feel like I'm not absorbing the information because of how horrendous the crimes against them are. So just, if you choose to read that book, know that you're in for a roller coaster. Like, know you're in for a really bad time. Not that anybody would enjoy that book, I don't think. Moving into the perspective reading, I've been pretty much mood reading through March. After having a bit of a reading slump and being sick in February, I've been mood reading to get myself back where I want to be with my reading, but also following a few prompts from A Tale of Two Trails and the Buzzwordathon. For my Buzzwordathon book this month, the buzzword is nature, so nature words, and I have a few prospective books, though I haven't really decided what I really want to be reading this month. So for my nature word books off my TBR cart for spring, I have a few options. I have Snow Flower and the Secret Fan by Lisa C., flower being my nature word. I have Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Nettle is a type of plant. And I have Dune by Frank Herbert, as in sand dune. That would be my nature word for this one. This is a 24 and 2024 book. I'm hesitant to put it on my TBR, not just because it's thick, but this book just intimidates me. Like the world building, getting into a new series, everything about this book intimidates me. So we'll see. Now, where it could be beneficial to read Dune is one of my prompts for A Tale of Two Trails is to start a new series. And I could use Dune for that, as well as my nature word, and double up between the two prompts. So that could be a thing. Another prompt from A Tale of Two Trails for Team A, the Pirates, we got a book based on your outfit, and I was wearing a black tank top and purple sweatpants, and I really only have 2 books that look anything like that, and one of them is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. The other one is the second book in the Throne of Glass series, but I haven't started it, so this is probably maybe my only option and what I'll end up reading. Another prompt that we got for A Tale of Two Trails is to start a new series, and I could do Dune. The other one I'm kind of eyeballing is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is a short and sweet book. It is the beginning of a trilogy. I have seen the movie. It would be an easy read, and I'm kind of feeling a little bit sci-fi, but not a whole lot of sci-fi. So that could be an option. The other prompt that we have is just so weird, and it's word of the day. But our word of the day is museum mobile, or mobile museum. Museum mobile. And the group book was picked for this prompt, and that is The Lost Bookshop. So not only do I have a lost bookshop, I have a lost apothecary, so everything is lost this month. And I've started the audiobook. The audiobook, thankfully, is on Spotify for premium members, but the wait for the ebook from the library is 21 weeks, and ain't nobody got time for that. So that's just a few of the prospective reads I have for this month. I do want to get another 24 in 2024 book worked into my TBR this month. I kind of want to play my TBR game, but don't want to be told what to do. I'm feeling very rebellious. I've got a lot of like individual standalone books I want to read through spring, and I feel like spring just started and it's already over. Is that just a South Florida thing? It really could be. But that's what I've got going on. That's what I did this past month. I read 7 books in total. Very good, even though 2 of them were very short. I was 6 books behind my reading goal for the month. So now I'm only 4 books behind. I'm slowly sneaking back on track. And that, I think I'm gonna, over the next 2 months, maybe 3, I'll be able to catch up to my goal of where I should be. So, what are you reading this month? Are you playing any TBR games? Do you have any prompts you're working for? Are you playing A Tale of Two Trails? And if so, are you on my team? I really hope you are. Please share with me what you're reading for these prompts. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.